One of our most popular guests ever is joining us again for another episode of We're No Damn Experts. Coming up, we're chatting with Carlson-Thompson of the First Peoples Buffalo Jump State Park about the 25th anniversary of the Visitor Center and some really neat upcoming events this summer and winter.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana. Good deal.
Yeah.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're no damn experts. Clearly, I'm so out of it today that I don't even know who I am.
I think I'm just going to say stay tuned for the very end of this episode and we'll throw that blooper in for you as a little treat at the end.
Oh, my goodness. But we've got a repeater today.
Yes.
I love it when we've got repeat guests.
I do too.
It's like old home week.
We get to dive into things. Also, this guest, it's a good repeat guest because since the time I've been on the podcast, his prior podcast with us is our most listened to by far episode. So
that's awesome.
No pressure, but we're expecting the same thing. Just kidding.
Clearly, you're the key to making this thing work.
If we're gonna bring somebody back,
right?
It's the man to do it. Yeah.
Well,
glad there's no pressure now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clark Carlson-Thompson from First Peoples Buffalo Jump, Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Asset, National Cultural Center, is on the podcast again to talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
Shannon
he
knows.
is here to talk about some stuff. Yeah. So we have all kinds of things we can talk about. And if you want to dive more into the history specifically of the Buffalo Jump at First Peoples, you can head back to the North America's largest buffalo jump episode. But the reason why I wanted to chat with you today is about a couple of your popular reoccurring events this summer, but even more so, it is the 25th anniversary of the Visitor Center at the Buffalo Jump.
Yes, the Visitor Center, we opened up in 1999. It was May of 99. So we are spending this year and this summer just kind of doing different fun events and trying new things out at the park and trying to just build up people coming out, checking us out. Maybe you haven't been out to the Buffalo Jump before, or maybe you haven't been out there in a long time, but we want to have you come on out to the Buffalo Jump and learn about the history there. It's a fantastic spot, and we're excited for folks to come see us.
So just to clarify, you weren't there when it was built?
Correct.
How long after it was built did you show up?
I got out to the park in 2014. So I've been there about 10 years now.
Okay. So, before we dig into it, what would you have done differently in the design, if anything?
Oh, I'd love a bigger gift shop out there.
Oh.
We've got so many neat things in the gift shop. Local artisans have done a great job supplying us with stuff. And there's so many different books on the history of just buffalo jumps or native culture and the tribes in Montana history that we could use some more space in there. And then the more you read and learn about buffalo jumps, there's, of course, we could always use more exhibit space. There's never enough space to show off everything we want to out there at the park. So it does a great job telling the story of how the buffalo jump was used. But if I was doing it all over, if I could do it all over again, I think I'd add some more exhibit space to highlight even more, especially the archaeology of the site.
Let's just find some money and we'll expand it.
Yeah. That sounds perfect.
Okay. Easy.
Boom.
Peasy. So now that I've started off on that question, let's go back.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Visitor Center. Like, do you know the history? How is it currently laid out? All those fun things.
And I think, and beyond that too, I was wondering, how long was it a park, designated as a park before there was a visitor center there, or did that coincide?
It was a little less than, let's see. I got to do some mental math here. It was the early 70s when it became a state monument, and then in 74 it became a state park. And it was just a little 160 acres, just right up on the top of the jump. Kind of the area most folks may think of when they think of the Buffalo Jump, the area where you can drive on in. And we've got a little sidewalk that takes you out to the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
And then in the mid-90s, they kind of started working on expanding the park, kind of getting the land all along the cliff face itself. There was a land swap involving Ted Turner that took place to kind of get that property.
I didn't realize he was involved in that part.
Ooh.
Okay.
I
the
hope
Tribune has some really great articles from back in the 90s about the whole land
Interesting.
swap.
Okay.
I hope there's some back alley dealings in that, like the seedy side of it.
I mean, you never know. Well, I'll try to find some of those for our listeners. I'll try to find some of those articles and put them in the show notes. So if you're interested in learning about the land swap.
Yeah, it's got some great information in there. And then slowly, kind of since then, the park's gradually expanded. We're now about 3,000 acres of park property and leased property right around the park. So we've got all 3 miles of cliff that were used at the Buffalo Jump. We've got 7 miles of trail now for both hikers and horses. And just lots of great areas around the park are protected for the view shed too. So folks can come out and see what the land. It's not too different than what it looked like when they would be running the buffalo off.
What are the things they can see inside the visitor center? Because I know we get the question often, are there buffalo out there? I'm like, well, kind of.
There's a stuffed one.
We have our safe selfie buffalo, Bartholomew, as we call him. He is there in the visitor center right as you walk in. He is a 3-year-old bull that is on wheels, and folks are welcome to come give him some selfie attention and get a fistful of buffalo hair and feel what those winter coats feel like. We've got
this is a touching exhibit.
This one is a touch exhibit. So folks
that.
can come out, and if you've ever wanted to feel a buffalo safely, he is the best one to do that with. We have 4 other stuffed
being
buffalo.
Safely, both for selfie and touching. This is the only place where you can safely do that.
Yep. He's our stuffed buffalo. He lives right there by the front desk. So kids love to come out and pet him. And a lot of folks, we have a nice sign that says, please touch. And folks also come in and they're like, you can't touch that buffalo. And we're like, no, it says, please touch.
Read more carefully.
Yep. So we're excited when we get get the folks feeling the buffalo and learning about the history there. The kind of biggest and kind of main focus of the exhibit is on how buffalo hunts worked. So we've got a self-guided story that goes through our interpretive hall. If you look at the mural as you go around it, it changes via the seasons. You start in the spring and you work your way over through summer, fall, and winter as you're working through the exhibit. And then we have our large buffalo hide teepee, which at 25 years old, it's going to be getting replaced this summer. So
it's original to the place.
Yeah.
It's been there for a while, so we're getting a new one of those this year. That'll be put up hopefully beginning of August when we do our mammoth hunt. So we'll get that kind of switched out and put up for that event. That'll be really fun and exciting. But the story talks about just how the buffalo were hunted, especially with a lot of the input from the Blackfeet tribe and the cultural history there. It's from that kind of perspective. And then as you're going through, there's a motion-censored audio story that clicks on, and you get to hear the voices of different authors and readers reading the story of just how a buffalo hunt took place from 2 young boys who were involved in a buffalo hunt. And so it's a real neat just story for folks to listen and kind of fully immerse themselves visually with the exhibit and then get that story as they're going through. And then there's lots of drawers to open up with different items on display.
Oh, you can open the drawers.
The drawers open up. There's an archaeology drawer, so you can get your Indiana Jones on and brush off the buffalo bones and different artifacts in the drawer. And there's another drawer that's got different items made out of the buffalo. And then we've got different flip books that go into some really detailed stories about some of the tribal history in the area. And so there's a lot to read, a lot to take in. A lot of folks like to spend a couple hours out there if you're really going to be delving in and reading through stuff. There's tons of stuff.
For the first time ever, I had a question just this week. Was it yesterday? Because it's
Tuesday, so yeah.
Nope, it was last week.
Okay.
I had a question last week about the buffalo jump and how it worked. And the first time I've ever gotten this question, one lady says, how'd they get him to go over the cliff? And I said, well, because I had retold the story as you had told it, like I was an expert. And so I explained that. And I said, if he was a good warrior, he stuck the landing. And if he was not,
His
they found a
legacy
new
lived
warrior
on.
next year.
Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, that was good. You
Yeah.
didn't cry. You didn't get scared or nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, first time they'd asked that.
Yeah. Usually we don't get more in-depth questions about it.
No, we
Yeah.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty excited because I knew something.
Yeah. Good
Actual
job.
something.
Good
I'm
job.
glad you were there to answer the question
Thanks
for
to
him.
Clark,
Yeah,
you
thanks,
knew.
Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything? What happens to the old teepee, the old hide, the 25-year-old hide that's been around that teepee?
It's in pretty rough shape, so
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we'll
What that looks
do
like.
with it. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll if we can find a good spot to store it out there, maybe
Yeah.
we'll keep it and put it up outside every once in a while when the weather's just perfect enough.
Yeah.
But,
Gotcha.
still trying to figure out what we'll do with the old one there because it's a pretty cool piece. It's
Yeah.
a large buffalo hide, brain tanned, made
Yeah.
the traditional way, canvas that's over that teepee. So
Gotcha.
we're excited to kind of maybe find some new uses for that material because
Yeah.
it's been part of the park and it'd be great to keep it in as
Mhm.
part of the park.
Yeah.
So as I'm visually walking through the visitor center, I think you've covered one portion, which is through the main doors, but you've not covered what happens if you go left when you enter.
Yes, so we have a couple different items. So you've gone through the interpretive hall. We have our
Yep.
exhibit on the Montana tribes. So all the different reservations as well as the Little Shell tribe are represented in that story. We call it the storytelling circle or the tribal circle. And it's got information about all the different tribes, different things that they've got going on, and their kind of how the reservations came to be for each of those tribes. We've also got... we have a pet bull snake at the park named Alpha, and he is also
Like a live one?
He is a live bull snake. He is about
Yeah,
5
they're
feet
good.
long, and he has a nice big enclosure right out in the front, so folks can come out.
How
and
have I missed this?
he's got a new tank
Okay.
since last year.
Okay.
So we used to keep him behind the desk, but we were able to get
Oh,
some
okay.
funds for a large and. It's a good kind of zoo quality exhibit for him.
Nice.
He's got plenty of space to stretch out, and we'll get him out every once in a while if folks want to feel a snake. And
Yeah.
Weren't you the one against my idea of planting bull snakes here in the park to take care of the gophers?
Yes.
Oh, that's probably why you missed it, because you weren't paying attention enough to the snakes because you don't love them.
Well, here my thing is, if we put snake, we're going to get more and more snakes, and I feel like our visitors would deal better with gophers than large bull snakes
Yeah.
going across the sidewalk. That
Clark,
was my
you wanna weigh
reasoning.
in?
it's
Do people like the snake?
I think people prefer the prairie dogs at the buffalo jump.
Yeah.
Personally, they're both great.
Yeah.
They both have their place.
They both have their place. It's not a rattlesnake. That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got your snake exhibit.
What was the snake's name again?
Our snake's name is Alpha.
Alpha. It's
And then
appropriate.
his daughter, Juniper, is
Oh.
over at Giant Springs State Park.
Oh.
And
Did
she
they
is-
get to reunite ever?
I don't think they've reunited ever, but she is now bigger than him. So
Oh.
she's
Ooh.
been,
Showed him.
she grew up fast and
Okay, so you can do
Big.
like a pet snake, not pet snake. You can do
Snake?
a beloved snake tour and go see Alpha and then go see Juniper.
exactly.
Okay.
Go check out
Okay.
your state parks and
Yeah.
There you
check
go.
out the snakes.
Perfect. Okay, sorry,
then-
I interrupted you.
Is there a snake at Tower Rock? Or
There are lots of
boxes?
snakes
There
at
are
Tower
snakes at Tower Rock. Those are all wild snakes. So
Yeah.
don't touch those.
That would have been
Yeah.
fun. Okay, so back to the visitor center.
Yes.
Yes,
I
back to the
digressed
visitor
us.
center. We've also got an exhibit on traditional native games. So we've got different game pieces
Oh.
and game supplies right up by the front desk as well. So folks can check those out and learn about. Excuse me,
You're
throat
good.
went dry. The folks can learn about the traditional games and learn how to play some of those games, and then we do those games with usually field trips with kids, and then coming up. For our kite festival part of that, we're going to be doing some traditional games for folks out there. So if you've ever wanted to learn some of the really fun games, there's one of my favorites to teach is called Run and Scream, where we literally have the kids you get one breath, take a deep breath in, and you run and you scream. And as soon as your breath runs out from that scream, that's where you stop running.
Wow.
So
This
it's
is
a
a
good-
lung capacity game.
Exactly. It was used to build up endurance and
Wow.
trained for things like that. So we're excited to be able to do those, and we'll make little sticks, and you can mark your spot in the ground, and then you can either race yourself or race your friends. It's really fun when we have a field trip of, like 30, 40 kids out there, and we get everyone to run and scream at the same time. It's a little jarring if you're in the visitor center, but
I was just thinking,
and you're not aware of what is about to happen.
What's happening. You're like, there's an attack. I was just thinking, I was like, this would be, Jason would disown me, and it would be funny in my neighborhood. But so I grew up being a runner ever since I had COVID. My lung capacity just been like shot. And so I should do this running through my neighborhood, just run down the street screaming and go back and forth testing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your stick.
Yeah, that's right.
Series of 5.
People will be seriously concerned about me.
Oh,
that's
no.
okay.
They'll know.
They'll know.
It's fine.
Yeah. So maybe we should finish the visitor center verbal tour, and then we'll talk more about the Kite Festival.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other kind of main exhibit in the visitor center is our archaeology exhibit. That's in the classroom. So if you're coming in the front doors, instead of going, we've got kind of a nice little foyer with the restrooms and drinking fountain right out there. Go into the door to the right. That is where our archaeology exhibit is. It's in the classroom. There's artifacts from the jump itself that were found on site. There's information on kind of how archaeology is performed. We've got a nice little kind of large flip book of just how the digs at the jump that took place in the mid-90s were completed with notes from the archaeologists.
Are there any digs that happen today?
No major digs. We've done some surface surveys, but there hasn't been any sort of in-ground excavation out at the park.
And as a gentle reminder, if you're visiting the park, you can't pick up things in the park and put them in your pocket and take them home as a souvenir.
That's correct. It's a good reminder.
Do people bring you stuff inside? Like they've gone up to the top?
Every once in a while, we'll get folks who mean well and they bring it into us in the visitor center. But archaeology is very context dependent. And so once you've removed it, even though it's still in the park, if you've moved it from out somewhere by the trail down to the visitor center, it's kind of lost its story. It's like a puzzle piece that's mixed up.
Okay, so even though it's in the same relative area, so if you think you find something, like take a picture, make note where it is,
exactly.
and tell somebody. Okay.
Maybe tag it. If you can get us some GPS coordinates and take a picture of it, then we can make sure that it stays where it needs to stay, and we've got a record of it. So
that's a good tip.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a good tip, because
don't pick up stuff.
I would think. I just would not. I'd be so excited to be like, oh my gosh, I found a phone. Like I could take it to them and show them. But that's a good note not that this is happening all the time out there, obviously.
Oh, I do it every day.
The search is
just pile
you
stuff
find
up.
bones out there every
that's
day.
Who's doing
just
that.
Pile stuff up by the front door, and I'm like, Clark will enjoy that when he shows up. It's his gentle way of saying, Ingham, leave it where it is.
Yeah, that is a good tip. Okay. And the classroom, I mean, you host everything from the children's art projects to being part of Western Art Week shows. I mean, that classroom gets used for a lot of things.
It sees a lot of different things. It's also kind of our, there's just a lot of various pieces of artwork throughout the visitor center. So a lot of folks saw the Ken Burns documentary about the American buffalo. The park is featured, I can't remember exactly what minute it's in, but the cliffs in the park are in there, and then also our picture of the buffalo caller or buffalo runner. That picture is displayed in the classroom, and so that was in that documentary in the first episode there. So folks are looking to check out some of the Ken Burns documentary stuff. It's pieces of it are out at the Buffalo Jump.
Can see it in person. When people come in, what are some of the common questions that you get asked when people are wandering around the visitor center?
One of the most common questions is, where is the Buffalo Jump? As you drive in, you're kind of faced directly to the west, and the biggest thing you see in the distance is Square Butte, which is a very neat geological feature, but unfortunately not the jump. Never was a Buffalo Jump either, so there was no way up to the top.
Yeah, so that's kind of the key component.
It probably looks like what most folks assume a buffalo jump would look like. But so the most common question, I think, is probably how do we get up to the top of that? And they mean Square Butte. And we show them out the window. This is our buffalo jump. It does have 400 feet elevation up to the top. So it's a decent feature out there on the landscape. But I think that's the most common question is, where is the buffalo jump?
That makes sense.
I went on a trip with my family when I was younger. I'm not going to say young because I wasn't that young.
No, you're still young.
And it was to the Black Hills in South Dakota. And we'd been driving around South Dakota for like days and days and days. And I'm like, We'd done Wall Drug. We'd done the Flintstone Park. And I'm like, finally, I just had enough. And I asked, when are we going to get to the Black Hills? Like, I thought it was a place you went. So I can understand the confusion if you were to drive out and not know what you're expecting and you want to go to Square Butte because you're thinking
it looks visually.
It looks ominous versus that. I'd been in the Black Hills the whole time. That's the moral of that story because it's not about a specific
spot.
Black Hill. It just, I guess the trees made it look dark, and so they called them the Black Hills.
Okay.
There's the moral and end of that story. So.
It is. I think that is a common confusion, though, even among locals. That Square Butte is the Buffalo Jump.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things where the Buffalo Jump, you wouldn't want necessarily a giant, just kind of rectangular feature. You want something that looks just like any other hill out on the prairie, and then boom, the cliffs show up and the buffalo go over.
Yeah.
Woo.
That makes dark sense. Yes. Okay. Anything? What have we not talked about the visitor center?
We love to tell folks the story of just how the Buffalo Jump was used there. So we love to get a chance to just talk to folks. If you have questions, come up, talk to us at the front desk. We're there to answer your questions and help you have a great visit out to the park and recommend other things here in Great Falls to do.
Just between us, because nobody else is listening, Clark. Do you ever get tired of telling that story? Because it's it's such a cool story, but it hasn't changed, you know?
Nope. Never get tired of telling that story. I think it's just seeing the connections folks can make when they hear that story for the first time. It's just kind of refreshing to, see the look of like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I had no idea that people hunted buffalo in this way for thousands of years. And, oh, I never realized that you would actually leap off a cliff in front of a herd of buffalo to hunt them before you had a horse. So like just gonna go the sight of the people seeing and learning is just keeps me going with it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is the funnest part is because our memories aren't very long. And really our history, our white history isn't very extensive. And so we think of everything with a gun and a bullet. And before there were those things, people were existing off the land and had to find ways to make that work because there's no way to just shoot them with a gun before guns were invented. So
they had to be much more creative in how they procured their resources.
I still think it's a cool story.
It is. Well, and the young men who would be the
jumpers.
The jumpers.
Buffalo runners, yeah.
Whew. That's a brave. I mean, I'm sure it came with a lot of distinction and honor in the tribe, but that's a very brave soul.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about events
Yeah.
because one of my favorite ones is coming up.
Which one? The mammoth?
No, I'll tell
Okay.
you when we get to it.
Okay. Okay. So talk to us about some of the events you have still coming up this summer and fall.
Yeah. So through Labor Day weekend, every Sunday at 1 p.m., we tell that story of the Buffalo Jump. We meet up at the top of the jump. It's a free talk, so folks can just show up 1 o'clock on Sundays. The only time we cancel it is if we have a good rainstorm going on, but haven't had too many of those yet. So
And you have to be at the top by 1.
at the top, 1 p.m. On Sundays. It's usually about half hour long, so it's not too long, but if you're wanting to bring any folks out who are visiting you in town, come on out, listen to the story.
Sundays
It's a
at 1.
different kind of program than it's a great talk down at the visitor center, but you just get just that much more out of it when you're up at the top in the spot where it happened.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Is that you don't have to check in at the visitor center or anything? You can just head straight to the top, right?
But those start just Sundays at 1, and whoever's up there, we
Talk to 'em.
talk to them.
Yeah.
We try to collect as many as we can up there.
While we're talking about the top of the jump there, I've gone out there, end up going out there several times just with my job to get content and video and things like that. And I'm always struck by this. Maybe I talked about this last time. I don't remember, but just within the last 6 months, even going out there, it's this weird kind of dichotomy of, I feel it's so peaceful at the top. Like I stand there and it's especially when no one else is there and you just stand there and you can hear so many birds and bugs and movement. Like if you listen hard, you can hear all those things and even, cows off in the distance or whatever. And it's just such a peaceful place. And then thinking about this like stark contrast to the
What it was.
thunder of hooves, what was happening there. It's just it's an odd, intriguing feeling to stand there knowing the history of what took place there, but also just feeling this like peace in that place too. I don't know. That's just been my kind of experience being up at the top there. Yeah.
It's definitely kind of I would describe it as a very calming kind of sensation, especially if you're up there and it's, towards people can walk in. A lot of folks don't realize you can walk in. If the gates are closed, go ahead and walk in. We're open. The park is open for walk-in access, daylight hours. So sunrise to sunset. So folks like to walk that road from the gate and just get a really quiet experience. There's not nearly as many folks in the park at that time. So it's just really peaceful and kind of calming.
Yeah. Because there's, we talked about this before too, I think, but they do yoga up on the top of the cliff every so often.
Yep, we've done that a few times.
Which would seem like a really neat experience.
I would not want to be super close to the cliff.
No.
I'm not that.
No, they do it kind of right at the high point, away from the edge of the cliff. You got about 50 yards to go.
Out, not down.
Yep.
Okay. So I've just been struck by that when I've visited in recent times. So I just wanted to bring that up. But okay, so you have every Sunday between now and Labor Day.
Yep. Those run Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Okay. Free talks.
Yep. Okay. Free talks up on top. Then our next kind of big events coming up weekly through about mid-August. We have our Summer Junior Ranger program. And that's Thursdays from 10 to noon. Those are free, but we do require signups. The topics we're talking about in July this year. We're not doing one on the 4th. Since everyone will be out and joining family barbecues, camping, celebrating the 4th of July.
Yeah.
We'll be starting those on the 11th, 18th, and 25th. On the 11th, we're going to do one on Montana plants. The 18th, we have one on yucca root and yucca soap, and that one actually has filled up already. We've got about 30 kids signed up. We usually, kind of our max is about 25. So that one is
I want to come to that one. That one sounds interesting.
Do they get to make soap?
That's what they're going to do. They're going to make some soap out of the yucca root. And then
should
on
do an
the
adult
25th,
version. Just saying.
I can talk to the staff. That might actually go over pretty well. We'll see how it goes with the kids.
Fantastic. We'll be there.
And then on the 25th, we're going to do solar-powered s'mores. So we're going to use the sun to cook up some s'mores.
I also want an adult one for that, please.
It's going to be a fun program, fun in July. And then towards the end of July, we'll release our August Junior Ranger programs. And
how far in advance do people have to sign up for the Junior Ranger?
We usually do the signups for the following month, kind of the last half. So end of July, kind of the last week or so of July, we'll get the Junior Ranger programs for August. Then folks can sign up for those. Okay.
So if people are planning to come into town, if they've planned out at least a couple weeks in advance, they should still be able to sign their kid up for that program while they're here. So, okay, fantastic. Good deal.
So those are Thursdays through mid-August, 10 to 12. And then kind of our first kind of big event of the summer is our kite festival. So
that's my favorite.
Yes, it's super
It's
cool.
a blast, assuming we get the good winds for it. You either seems to be no wind or too much wind.
The rare occasion when there's not wind out there.
Perfect wind.
Okay. Perfect amount.
But that is always the second weekend in July. And so it'll be running 10 to 4 Saturday and Sunday. We'll have kite kits available for folks to purchase, or you can bring out your own kite. There's nothing to obstruct your kites out in that sky. Our power lines are all underground. There's no trees really except right next to the visitor center. So get out there with your kites. You can run around. We've got the fields mowed down. We'll have some real big kites up there. Terry Zeeley with Skywind World is going to be there. She's got a lot of huge kites, like easily kind of about the size of a sheet of plywood.
Wow.
That we'll be trying to get up there. Those will be out and about. They're painted by various native artists from all over Montana. So those will be out there on display if they're not up flying. And folks can come out and make some kite kits. We'll have those ready to decorate for folks in the visitor center. They're $10 a piece, but those kits, you just need to have a little bit of a run behind you and they will fly and
I should have brought mine in.
Yeah.
Because I still have mine and I fly it.
Yeah.
And we took my niece out there. That's why we were there. And she was the only kid, so there wasn't another kid to do stuff with. So I got to get a kite. Nice. And so I did it. And then my niece and my husband teamed up and made their own kite together. And I was doing my own. And we went out and flew them. And
nice.
Mine did real good.
Yeah.
I was proud of mine. And I've done it at home. Like it's
nice
still working.
Job.
Yeah. For $10.
Yeah.
Custom designed by me.
Right. I was like, you painted it. Did you paint on it too?
It's markers.
Okay. Or marker. Okay.
Yeah.
They're kind of a, like a windproof paper type material.
Yeah, like
and
a Tyvek type.
Yeah.
It's really, one thing I will caution people, if you're listening before, as a pro tip to make your kite, don't put too much ink on it because it will adjust the way it flies.
Oh,
Is what we found
okay.
in our own study of two kites.
That's a good tip, though.
Well, we have lots for sale, so if you want to come and do some
do it
experiments,
again.
get the proper
Yep.
ratios of
There
ink
you
to
There you go.
ink
I
to
can
blank.
have a whole set of kites custom made by myself.
Yeah. Is there there's the art, like the Native American artwork on these kites. Is there more significance or kind of why a kite festival?
The kite festival had been going on before I got out to the park, but
The wide open spaces.
kind of the
help
wide
with
open
that.
spaces.
Yeah.
It was I think it was folks were looking for kind of unique ways to connect to Native artists and connect these kind of beautiful pieces of art back to the kind of Native landscape. And the Buffalo Jump blends itself real well to that. They do it over at Madison Buffalo Jump too, over by Bozeman, another state park over there. But I'm partial to our Buffalo Jump here. And,
Yes.
Right.
The kite festival that we have here, it's a great time. Terry Z. Lee is great to work with. She's excellent at teaching kites. She knows so much about them and knows all about the different artists and the different works of art that are on these kites. And it's just a great weekend. And then we'll also have traditional Native games being played out there at the same time. So park staff will be kind of leading those games and making those game pieces. And then we're hoping to we'll have a food truck out there as well. So folks can come out and spend an afternoon and get some lunch while they're there and fly some kites and enjoy the park.
Fun. It's always, I've been out 1 or 2 times for the kite festival.
I like
it's always
it.
really neat. Yeah.
Have you ever made your own kite?
I have not. No. I've
You're
just,
You'll
missing
have to
out.
this year.
yeah, I do. Yeah. That sounds really fun. And now I know not to put too much ink on it.
Yeah. Like you're going to want to have some lighter areas is all I'm saying.
Okay.
If it's fully covered in ink.
Yeah. Good to know. Can I get some footage of you trying to fly your kite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll fly it.
Great.
Not trying. It'll
It's
go.
going. It's
It'll
going.
go.
They're
Perfect.
guaranteed to fly.
Wow. There's
Yeah.
not much guaranteed anymore. I like that.
Yeah,
These kite kits they're perfect though.
Yeah.
They'll
Fun.
go up.
And
Good
there's people there to help you. Like if you think you're screwing something up, they're like, "Oh no, you're doing good. And you can't screw it up."
That's what I need. That's what I need. It's been a long time since I've attempted to fly a kite. All right. Kite festival and then Mammoth Hunt.
Then the Mammoth Hunt. That's the second weekend in August. That's one of it's hard to choose between the Kite Festival and the Mammoth Hunt for a favorite event, but they're both just fantastic. And the Mammoth Hunt is where we get different stations set up. We'll have different traditional skills. So there will be an atlatl station where folks can try their hand with the atlatl, which is an ancient spear thrower.
Oh, the spear one.
And so we'll have some targets that have different historic animals on them for folks to try to hit with those. I would have been a terrible hunter if I was forced to use the
You've
atlatl.
been a vegetarian.
Yep. It's
A lot of
much
plants
harder
and
than
berries.
it looks.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we'll have bows and arrows available for folks to try out. So if you've ever wanted to try those, we'll have those available. We use the kind of the just recurve bows, so folks will be able to try those. We've got tomahawks or throwing hatchets available as well, so folks can come try their hand with those. We're going to have a buffalo hide scraping demonstration showing how those hides were made when they would be kind of scraping the fur off, and we'll have a guest presenter doing that. Billy Maxwell will be out for that part.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
He'll be there that weekend. He's a cultural anthropologist and does a lot of those things. And then we're going to, that'll be kind of the big pieces for the Mammoth Hunt. It'll be a great chance for folks to try some of these primitive skills. We're working on getting a flint napper out there. So if anyone is interested in demonstrating flint napping, get a hold of us out at the Buffalo Jump. And we're always looking for folks to show off some of these more primitive skills.
Yeah.
I think it was ESPN 8 I was watching. I didn't know they had this many, but ESPN 8, they had axe throwing, World of Axe Throwing competition. And I keep thinking kind of like the throwing of a spear, like it can't be that hard.
Right.
And then you try it and you're like, it's really not easy. And then I watch these professionals throw axes and I'm like, man, I don't even know. That's really, I picked up some techniques.
Yeah.
I still don't think it's going to make me very good, but
but at least in the right direction.
some people are just good at it or practice.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So.
It's another one of those things that takes a lot of practice, and
Yeah.
a lot of patience. But
I think
once
I'd
you
be
get
with you in the berry plant department.
Yeah. But I think it probably gives you a better appreciation for the cultures that and things that came before us.
the skills that people developed
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
thousands of years. Atlatls were used for, I think they go back 6, 7, 8,000 years, if not longer.
Wow.
It was the tool before the bow and arrow. So
Yeah.
people hunted mammoths and with those, and I know they're braver than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes. I am
And successful because
yeah.
they survived by
Right.
eating. Eventually, they found animals to eat.
massive animals.
I'd just hang around waiting for.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I'd be pretty, and people would take pity on me and feed me.
I will just say I have great appreciation for that, but I am also glad that that is not the time frame
That you
in which
live
I
in?
was born.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then heading into, I know that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but in the fall, winter time, excuse me, there are guided hikes out there through the pictograph and
Yeah.
petroglyph.
Yep. Pictographs and petroglyphs.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Through that area. Can you talk a little bit about those opportunities?
Yeah, so usually it's kind of November, December, January, February, and then depending on how the weather is in March. We run those hikes up along the cliff. It's all off trail, right at the base of the cliff, so it's not really good footing or anything. We list it as strenuous just because you're kind of scrambling around over the rocks.
Yeah.
But we've got about half dozen pictographs that we stop at along the way. They're very faint. If you don't know where to look, if you don't know what you're looking for, it's real easy to miss them. So we do those as a guided hike. And then in the winter, it's the guided hike because we do have plenty of rattlesnakes. That's their favorite habitat. And so if you're out there in the summer, you will see them.
Yeah.
Or you will hear them and not see them. And so we encourage folks in the summer to stay on the trails. But in the winter, we take guided hikes out to the pictographs and petroglyphs.
Yeah.
Off-road. And it's a great chance to kind of connect with the park in a different way. A lot of folks don't necessarily come on out, but we do those in the mornings. It's usually once a month on Saturdays. So we post those about 2 weeks ahead of when they'll run.
Okay. That is still on my Great Falls area bucket list. I have not gotten to do one of those yet, and I would really like to do that. So I'm hoping to cross that off this winter sometime. So yeah. And you can walk around there in the summer on the trails, but also just be aware, even on the trails, there's, do you have kind of basic rattlesnake etiquette for
Basically, if you come across a rattlesnake in the park, first make sure you know exactly where it is if you can see it. Just give it plenty of space. Make your way around it. They're going to try to get out of your way. The only time I've ever had one come towards me, I was standing between it and the hole in the ground it wanted to dive into. So once it moved out of the way, it dove into the hole. We were both much happier, and we both kept about our day.
Yes. In general, they're not
they're not out to
wanting
get
to
you.
come after you. They just
A lot of times they'll just be like, "Did you guys see me? Did you
Yeah.
see me? Hopefully not. Oh, maybe you did. I'm going to rattle at you."
Yeah. Okay.
But for the most
I'm
part,
here.
just give
You're
them some
getting too
space.
close.
Right. Yep. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Do you recommend hiking with a friend that if you get bit by a rattlesnake, someone can suck the venom out for you? Or
You
is
don't do
that a myth?
That's a myth. You don't do any of the
Okay.
sucking or cutting or anything.
Nothing.
You just
Go.
basically just get to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't prolong.
Is that though? Are you supposed to not like walk versus run? Is that a thing?
You
Because
wanna
like it goes.
Try to keep yourself calm, or
Okay.
if someone with you, keep them calm as much as you can, just to prevent the venom from kind of spreading as much as you can.
Okay.
But then about the only treatment you can get, just get to the ER, and they've got the antivenom.
Yeah. Okay.
No sucking, no cutting.
Yeah.
There we
There
go.
you go.
Words of wisdom right here on our podcast, folks.
Is that what I should call this episode?
There's been a lot of them today.
Yeah.
A lot of
lot
good
of
pieces of
options.
information.
That's good stuff. The going back to the visitor center, was that so? In the past couple of years, we've had the 25th anniversary of the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center,
yeah.
Yep.
and now we have the 25th of
A lot of
First People's
investment
Buffalo.
being
Yeah,
made.
it was like that time frame was really a lot
Great
of
Falls was the hot spot.
cultural investment in the community. Was that? Do you know any of the history of like why, like how the visitor center came about, like why or who was behind it or any of that? You can say no if you don't. I'm just
I would say,
just
kind of in the
curious.
kind of broadest terms, it was just throughout the history of the park, the County Historical Society was pretty heavily involved in the early days of the park, and kind of pushing for getting a visitor center. And there was wanting to be some tribal involvement, I know. And so I think kind of in that culmination, kind of in those years right before the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial, there was a big influx to like showcase our history and kind of get all these centers up and running right around here around that same time. And so I think that's where a lot of that kind of energy and timing wise, everyone wanted to kind of capitalize on that bicentennial when we had the big numbers through town back in early 2000s.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that was I'm glad we had kind of that timing because it's really pushed and brought some of our kind of jewels of our museum system, kind of as we call it here. And I love that it's the interpretive center where you can go and touch things. So
yeah, well, and the interpretive center is great. Like all the museums in Great Falls, we have the Great Falls Museum Consortium, and so there's 10 museums here in Great Falls. We're included in that. We're happy to be invited and included in that grouping there, and so it's fun to work with the other museums, and we can share resources with one another. We can share information and direct each other to each other's centers, and folks can just spend days and days learning about all the history and culture around Great Falls.
Yeah.
If not for Great Falls, Montana just wouldn't exist. And you can learn that at all of our museums and cultural centers.
That's right. We were talking about, the Buffalo, the jump talks are free, with the exception, if you buy a kite kit, but are the other events free as well?
Yep. Most of our events, we don't, that guided hikes, we do charge $4 a person for those. Okay. The only other thing would be if you have an out-of-state vehicle, we do charge the $8 per car. So if you're visiting from out of state and you're visiting some folks here in Montana, take the Montana card and come visit us out at the Buffalo Jump.
And I believe I have asked this before and I just never remember. If they pay to get into First People's Buffalo Jump, because they have no friends in Montana, and they pay the $8 fee, is it good to go to other state parks?
Yes, so it's a day pass. It's good at all of them. So if you're visiting the Buffalo Jump and you're like, I'm going to head on into Great Falls for the rest of the day, head on over to Giant Springs State Park. That receipt's going to get you in there too.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. But
I think I've told people that. I just am never quite sure if I'm truthful or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Good job. Anything else that maybe was something we haven't talked about or lower key about the visitor center? Would be like, make sure you look at this when you go in there.
The color of the carpet.
Yeah.
The color of the carpet is 25 years old. So I don't know if I'd look at the I'd look at the carpet. It's holding up pretty well.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff in there. We've done some like little touch-ups here and there, but for the most part, the visitor center, it's been around for 25 years. It still has a ton of great information. It's still very accurate. People still come in and are just wowed by the display and the story. And I think my favorite piece in the visitor center is just that mural in our interpretive hall. A lot of folks don't realize it goes through the seasons, through that entire exhibit in there. And so if you're looking at it, you'll see the spring wildflowers, the calves and the bison, and as you're working your way around, the kind of leaves changing in the fall, and then there's snow behind the teepee exhibit in the camp there.
That's cool.
When was hunting happening? Like our hunting season is in the fall. When was buffalo jump hunting season? All year long?
Based on the bones they found when they did the digs in the 90s, the bones suggest the bison would have been same, kind of comparing them to modern day Yellowstone bison. They're the same size as they are in the late fall, early winter. So you're looking at probably
same time frame.
A little same time, yeah.
Okay.
And, which also makes sense. The bison would be at their biggest, and so they're going to have nice stores of fat and meat on them. They're going to be in their winter hides, so they'll be real thick and woolly.
Hairiest.
So if you're getting hairiest right there for the buffalo, and that's what you'd want for your blankets and your moccasins and your clothing for winter. So it's the perfect time of year to hunt a large number of buffalo and kind of stock yourself up and get yourself best prepared.
That's what I was thinking, like the preservation component of it as well is better than when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah. Not a good time to hunt.
Was it only used that one time a year then?
For the most part, it was late fall, early winter. Other buffalo jumps maybe have been used at different times a year.
Okay.
Some were more kind of opportunistic. Where if the
sure.
buffalo herd was above a cliff, you might try to spook them off.
Yeah.
But First People's, most of the bones, they did find bones kind of that covered for a variety of times a year, but most heavily it was used in that late fall, early winter.
Okay. That's it. I never really thought, I guess in my brain it was kind of not continually used, but more than once a year used. And that once a year, that's when the 13 tribes all came.
Yep, you'd have everyone
that
kind of
time
coming
frame.
in that time frame.
Yeah.
So it'd
Schedule your weekend.
Exactly.
Right. And is that, we talked about how there's the traditional games, you can learn about those and play those. Did that happen then when because we've talked before about how it was kind of a rare place of peace because it was the grocery store, if you will, for everybody there. They were all coming to collect their resources. Did the different tribes then play traditional games during that same time on the grounds as well?
I would say it's probable.
Okay.
I don't think I can't say for certain.
Yeah.
But when you get the big gatherings, you'd have games, you'd have trade, you'd have
it's
just
like the
relationships.
Olympics, but for the 13 tribes of like which tribe's the best at running and screaming or at lateral throwing and
Yeah, I'm sure there's some friendly competitions going on and demonstrations of different skills. And I think it would have been a really cool, really neat experience to be there when one of these hunts was taking place.
Oh, yeah. Because again, it's a more rare timing of when it's kind of an agreed upon peace place. Correct? Okay. Yeah. It's interesting.
Well, I've learned a lot again today.
I know. We always learn things from Clark. Always.
Happy to share. I love sharing knowledge with folks. Thank you for the invitation to come back. This has been a blast.
Yeah. So I'm just hopeful that you score high again,
Yeah.
Clark.
No pressure, We'll see how many listens you get this time.
Part of that is also Shannon. Just going to say, like she's the one who puts it out and
I have nothing to do with it. I just post. It's all about our guest.
Thank you. And folks, as you're listening, get your plans made to do some of this fun stuff. Like the Kite Festival is a good time.
It's really neat.
Mammoth Hunt is a good time. The Junior Ranger stuff, borrow a child, take them to it. Because there's some
I'll
fun
pretend
stuff.
to be a child.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
It would
I
make
can
sense.
act like one. Yeah.
I'll take you out there. I'll be your mom. Tawny, you're not showing
sorry,
up
Mom.
for that one.
I want to go learn to make the yucca soap.
And if you want more information about First Peoples Buffalo Jump, go to their site. We have it on our site. It links to their site. We try to get all the events that we know about up and ready so you know what to do. And it's just going to be a fun summer again at First Peoples or year round, really.
Real quick, Clark, what are your hours right now and when do those change?
So mid-September, we'll switch to our winter hours.
Okay.
But currently our summer hours, we're open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day.
Every day. Okay.
Including holidays. So
okay.
Mid-September, we'll make that switch, and then we'll be open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 4, and Sundays, noon to 4.
Okay. But for right now.
Every day.
Every day, 8 a.m. to
during
6 p.m.
daylight.
Come talk to a friendly ranger.
All people are allowed.
Yes.
So,
please come. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what you're waiting for. Get to Great Falls already.
That's right.
And until we see you in our fine, fair city, we hope you are creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. We'll see you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.